Record. Hey, boys and girls, it's the Elevating Your Voice show with Chris and Marco. Yes, I'm in space because why not? Marco's down on the planet Earth, and here's Mark Vost, the amazing life resume, realtor, like corporate guy,
Yes.
like all kinds of crazy things that started. Looking at your document that Marco sends out is quite fantastic. Australia. When you did the Australia thing, did you actually go to Australia?
Yes, we did.
Did it then go eat your baby?
It did not.
Nice. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, this is fantastic, man. So where do you want to start, Mark? All
Well,
kinds
the,
of
the
things you
first
can
thing
talk
I'd like
about.
to start with is to
Okay.
say, those of you that have stumbled on this and think you've come to a Hair Club for Men commercial, no, are you. This is Elevating Your Voice with
Right.
Chris and Marco. And the second thing I like to say, I am absolutely humbled to be invited to be on
Oh,
this
thanks.
program with you guys. So I really appreciate that. I guess I'll start if you like real quick my background. I was actually
Yeah.
born in England, immigrated to the States just before I was 9 years old, became a U.S. citizen when I was 17 years of age. And my whole goal as a young person was to become an American, hence why I've lost the accent.
Can you still pull it out though?
I cannot. And Megan will tell
Oh,
you it is
Really?
the worst fake
that sucks.
English accent you have ever heard.
I have a friend who's from Ireland, and when I found out she was from Ireland, because I'm Irish, so I love the accent. I was
Yeah.
like, can you pull it out? And she was like, no, no, no. And I'm like, you got it in there somewhere. And then it was I worked out with her at Orange Theory, and so it was something that pissed her off, and she let it fly.
The Irish came out.
It's so awesome. Well,
So, anywho,
yeah,
so we I
became a
traveled
citizen.
a lot
Yep,
extensively throughout
yep.
the United States as a kid, and then right after high school I just entered the workforce and did various manual labor jobs or whatever I
Yeah.
needed to do. I was just never afraid to work, thanks to my dad's work ethic. And that proceeded into my first sales job was an appliance salesperson. And there I studied the art of selling and how to sell, the science of selling,
Oh,
and
nice.
availed myself of all the books, all the back then cassette tape programs, and anything
Yeah.
and everything I could to learn about selling. Then, because of my mathematics background, yes, I'm probably one of the few people that actually bought a book to teach myself calculus.
Wow.
I got a job in aerospace, and I started out as an inspector
Wow.
and
In
proceeded on my.
space,
I'm sorry? No,
you were an inspector in space.
no,
Okay.
aerospace, specifically gas turbine engines.
See
Those
that?
those
Yeah.
planes that we all take for vacations, those jets you look out on those wings. I made
Yeah.
the turbine parts, the engine parts in the hot section of the
Okay.
engine.
That's
Very, very, very high tech.
right on.
And from, I ended up in a course of 11 years getting third. And as
Wow.
somebody once told me, I ended up getting promoted up, 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 and out. When I became such a high line item as far as what they were paying me, they figured out they could get 4 or 5 engineers for that price of me. So they consolidated and I lost. So
Oh,
that's when I started my real estate career. And my real estate career has been quite pretty cool. I've been in real estate since 1993 when I was first licensed. Done a lot of different things. I don't know if you guys want
Yeah.
me to go into detail on
well,
that.
No.
we have all the gist of it. We don't want to,
So
yeah, because the people, But one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on is when we were first talking about it, and you were against it adamantly. But then you made a comment that you know what not to do. Like been there, done that. Meaning all the different things. When I started in real estate, I can't even remember how many different coaching things I went to, how many seminars
yep.
I went to, how much bullshit that I bought because this is going to change my business. I'm going to get so much better because of this. And it all just accomplished absolutely nothing. So I think that insight alone is very valuable for the newer agents that we have working with us and the ones that are still trying to find the niche in our world and what works and what doesn't work, because we've kind of had that conversation quite a bit. So if you want, you can kind of talk about that a little bit. And I know Marco probably has some questions he wants to
Yeah.
ask, and just kind of take it from there. And then we'll just allow
Okay.
the conversation to flow.
Excellent. Sounds good, guys. So a couple things that really I learned the hard way, Chris, sounds like you did, is getting involved on the bleeding edge of technology. Once I obtained some measure of success in
Right.
sales, it just seemed like everybody came out of the woodwork and wanted me to, this is the newest and the greatest.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, and this, by the way, this even preceded real estate. This went back to the aerospace career
Right.
where we spent 3 years, I mean, millions of dollars implementing a new theory of constraint software that was gonna improve our productivity and throughput, and at the end of 3 years, it was just absolute garbage because the technology wasn't there,
Mm.
and so we wasted
Hmm.
multi-millions of dollars
Wow.
on that, and from that and then in the real estate, I learned and I think where this came up was the other day talking about things with what is it, Transact Now, or is it
Mhm.
now?
Yeah.
And listening to some of the complaints and things, and I can remember working with that same company when I was a
Oh.
consultant to Realty
Oh.
Executives International 15 years ago, and we had the same complaints about issues
Really?
back then. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's nothing new. So I just, that's one of the things I would tell everybody is don't do technology for technology's sake. Figure out, and we always have used, and I say we because this is transferred to Megan as well. We always look at technology and say, how does this help us? Does this save us
Right.
money?
Yeah.
Okay. Or does it save us time that we can then use
Mm.
for something else productive?
Mm.
If it saves somebody time so they can take an extra long coffee break, I'm not interested. I'll sip some of my tea. If also the technology, if anybody ever comes to me with a proposal or something with a technology and it's going to make it easier,
Yeah.
man, you want to talk about the hair stand up on the back of my neck and a red flag going off because I don't get paid for easy.
Mhm.
The marketplace doesn't reward easy
I love
unless
that.
Hmm.
it's easy for the consumer. For
Oh,
me,
nice.
it's okay,
Mhm.
what does easy mean? Okay, if it doesn't translate into it will make me more money,
Right.
demonstrate, where I can demonstrate that, or actually save me time that I can then use to do something proactive. So we are very selective in the technology we apply, and we only apply it where we believe it's going to do us direct
Hmm.
good.
So
I love that.
what kind of things have you been approached with since you've been in real estate that made your, red flags hair stand up on somewhere
Oh
on your body
man.
that is still relevant today? Because I think we all fall into that traps. Would you agree, Mark? Where you see a shiny new thing and you
Oh
think, "Oh
yeah.
my gosh, this is going to help my business do so much more," or this next level AI. Like I fell into this thing called Super Cool. Have you seen Super Cool AI all advertised everywhere?
Well, so here's the thing, Chris, whether it's
Yeah.
super
Okay.
cool or anything else,
Uh-huh.
and I know this is not gonna go over well, but AI is in that category for me. So
That's where I was going with that
Mhm.
statement, Mark, because
Yeah.
I fell into the super cool thing because I kept seeing all these ads and how it's a game
Yeah.
changer. So I finally went in and did it. And then after spending $300, I realized this is the same thing that all the other AI platforms are. I bought into the hype of all the people commenting on likes and the shares and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is a game changer. This is a game changer. It's not. It's no different than Hey Gen. It's no different than the auto reel app that we
Right.
use for listings, right?
No.
So I was like, mm,
Well,
sucking
so,
myself into it.
and for me, I'd say, okay, where can I use AI?
Yeah.
So I think I mentioned once when I list stuff
Right.
on
The auto reel
eBay,
app.
it does a real good job of doing the
Oh, does
descriptions
it?
for, oh
Okay.
yeah, very
Yes.
good job.
Okay.
And so I use that, okay, because
Okay.
I don't know how to describe a pair of women's shoes that I'm selling. So
Wait, 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 wait,
sorry,
wait.
sorry, Nick.
Why are you selling women's shoes? Okay. 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 I just,
Welcome to my
just
life.
curious. I mean,
So,
our brokerage is very wide open, so that's why I have to ask.
I should be giving them to Nick. He'll find a good home for him. But anyways, so I'm just like when I hear people talk, I'm like, okay, well, all right. So if do I have so many listings that a true heartfelt description from what spoke to me about that listing? Do I have so many that, boy, I just need all the help in the world to do that? No,
Yeah.
that's not where I
Hmm.
need help. What am I going to save in a year with AI? An
Yeah.
hour? A year?
Mm.
Come on,
Right.
guys. I
Yeah.
waste more time than that, again, drinking my tea. So, but then conversely, on the auto reel made sense to me because at the time we were sitting and still will be sitting a lot of other people's listings for
Right.
open houses. Well, what we were doing was, we would go to get an appointment with the listing agent, go over the week before, do a video, come back,
Right.
edit the video, post it, and blah, blah, blah. And it was just a lot of work. Auto reel is replaced all the time. We don't have to drive out there. We don't have to we just create it. We get the permission from the listing agent and boom, it's up. The other thing is on our listings, we were paying for these videos.
Mhm.
And it's like, why? So that saved me money and time. Therefore, it was perfect, perfect.
So for
Yeah.
you, the auto reel app is a prime
Mhm.
example of something that gives you time. It's efficient and it creates an end game to what you're trying to accomplish, which goes back to giving you more time because, like you said, you're not driving to, you're not going into the house,
Mhm.
you're not taking all the
Right.
pictures, driving back home, sticking in another app. Because I love auto reel app. I
Mhm.
thought that
And
was one of the best things Nick
given that
shared.
we're doing an open house a week,
Mhm.
prior to all my surgeries here lately, but, given that we were doing that, that's a true time savings. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a half a
Right.
day a week.
sure.
That makes a difference. You can work your database for the half a day and get more results. And it
Yeah,
saved us money. We didn't have to pay for the
Yeah.
videos.
right.
So it
Right.
was a great so there to answer that question.
Right. And it's one of those things that you just have to pick and choose according to your business model, which one is going to save you the most time, the most money, because you can't do them all, right? You can't do them all, and you don't want to do them all, right? You don't want to do all this technology because then you just get lost. So yeah, I think that's great that you and Megan have been able to dial in, really think about, okay, if we're going to do this one, we have to do it, stick with it, do it well. And I think that's a good lesson for all agents. Now, I want to go back to something you said at the beginning. You said the science of selling. The science of selling.
Yeah.
To me, what that means, what I guess interpret it from you is that you think sales can be taught, right? Because I think a lot of people say, "Oh, you're a natural salesman," right? You get that a lot. You're a natural salesman, right? But it almost seems like you weren't a natural salesman, or at least you didn't think so. And then you became this awesome salesman where you had employees, you had international brokerages. Talk to us a little bit about what you mean by the science of selling.
Before you go there, I do think it helps having an analytical brain to get into sales.
Mhm.
What do you think
Yeah.
about that statement, Mark? Do you think that's true?
Well, for me, obviously it is. I mean,
Yeah.
like Megan points out to almost everybody we meet, I'm sorry, he is a recovering engineer. So I live in systems and I would have been an excellent pilot because I checklists, I follow them, I create them.
Hmm.
It's what I do.
Oh,
It's the way I get through my day for me and accomplish everything that I want to accomplish. So
Hmm.
those systems. So with regards to selling, the science of selling. So I was selling a TV appliance, and yes, it was right when Dire Straits came out with their MTV song. So it was,
Right.
that was always playing in the background at the appliance stores. We or what I did then you know, learned about features and benefits selling. I learned spent a lot of time looking into and studying I'm going to say the psychology of it, of the process of how you move a person from step to step, first identifying what's the process you want them to go through to that ultimate yes. And then what I learned from that, and then, I was a voracious reader as a young person. As I say, when I say young, I mean in my 20s and 30s and 40s. I would read everything, How to Win Friends, Influence People, Never Eat Lunch Alone, Dress for Success, 7 Habits. I even went to see, his name skips me now. I went into Manhattan to go to a speech by the writer of the 7 Habits of Highly
Oh,
Efficient
right on.
Effective people. And when I would study, the difference between efficiency and effectivity and all these things. So yes, I then got taught.
mhm.
And when I would later on, because a lot of people don't know, I was a very prolific salesperson.
Mhm.
for 3 years in a row. I had a partner at the time, Carlos Pinto, a Realty
Okay.
Executive. We were the number 1 transaction team in all of Realty Executives
That's
worldwide.
amazing.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
3 years in a row,
Mhm.
with the highest share being 516 sales,
Right. Wow.
in 1 year, just the 2 of us too, and an unlicensed. Back then, you had to type everything,
Right. I
so we
remember.
need
Yeah.
so it was our
Old school,
handwrite,
man. Uh-huh.
and so, um, with that, when I run into a slump and wasn't selling, it reverted back to that what I taught myself, that science, say, "Okay, what are you doing wrong?" And 9 times out of 10, guys, it was I was talking too much.
Really?
Yep, I wasn't
Wow.
listening to the client. So I got mad at myself. I said, "Okay, this is the next person. I'm gonna take them out, show them houses, and I'm not gonna say hardly anything, right? I'll show them this is not true. This science stuff." And you know what happened? Of course, they bought a
Yeah.
house at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Right.
Showed them 4 and they bought 1, and it was like, "Are you kidding me?" That's it. So,
Yeah.
for me, that process, those steps, it worked, it fit with my and then what I found through time, I ended up really focusing my business on builders, vacant land, helping them with that, and investors is a big part. Other business people that
Mhm.
expect a certain way. Yes, of course, I did, and still do
Residential.
people. People that are, just for their homes and stuff, family,
Mm.
friends, that kind of thing. But really focusing on it because I found that my systems worked really well for those people.
We're done.
Do you think it's easy, like in your experience, is it easier to sell to investors or is it easier to sell to somebody else who's going to live in that home?
My job is to do it for both of those types of people. It's my job to adjust myself to them. Again, when we say easier, that doesn't compute for me. It doesn't matter to me. What's the goal? I always begin with the end in mind. Okay, he needs an investment and is going to return a certain amount, or will work for corporate housing, or will work for a long-term tenant, or he's going for appreciation, those things. Or if it's a family that wants a house, they describe the house and I showed them the house that was perfect for them. And they said, well, we need to
Right.
see more. So 24 more houses
Mm.
later, they bought the first one. So
Yeah.
was it easier? It didn't compute. So the job I needed to do to help them is in one of the things sent in my little write up for you guys was, the money isn't the goal for me.
Right.
Mhm.
It's a result, it's an
Yeah.
outcome of
Yep.
whatever that challenge I'm presented with is how best do I adjust to that and perform.
Right.
Agreed. I'm a
Right.
big believer in connections before commissions. You guys have heard me say that
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
more connected you are with the person, the better the relationship becomes after it being the transactional side of it. And then you continue down the
Mhm.
path as some type of level of friendship
Mhm.
because you establish that connection to begin with. Because
Mhm.
again,
yep,
like you said, money's the byproduct of what we do.
Right.
Although it's the most necessary part of what we do, it's still a
Right.
byproduct.
And
exactly.
Salesman.
you
Okay,
He
know,
doesn't like
I,
salesmen.
I think when I think of a salesman, I think of more of a communicator, right? Like you're just communicating a message, right?
Mhm.
And to your point, Mark, whether you're working with an investor or somebody in residential, you have to adapt. A good communicator is going to adapt, right, to the situation, to the needs of that customer, client. And I think ultimately that's a sign of a really good communicator in place of salesman, right? You in your write-up, you had some really interesting strategies and like terms, like just to name a
Let,
few, and we can, you know,
let him go through them. Don't
okay,
name them for him. Let him go through them because I'm interested to see
no,
which
okay,
ones he pulls out off the top of his head.
okay. So
no,
tell us
just
about one of them.
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Marco. I
Oh,
mean,
okay,
Mark.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I,
No, Marco, go ahead, Marco. Ask me what
yeah.
you want to know, and then we'll
So
go from there.
I'm really interested about be the bean.
Be the
Oh,
bean. Oh, real quickly, what that refers to is if it's an analogy where if you take a pot of boiling water, which
Okay.
is the environment that we work in, right? There's
Mhm.
interest rates, it's a buyer's market, it's a seller market. People are worried
Right.
about, are we going to war with Iran or not, or what's going on in Venezuela? All these things that cloud our minds. And
Right.
by the way, got to make sure, there's just all these things. That's the environment, the boiling water. Well, you put a carrot in there, right? The carrot's
Yeah.
going to get all mushy. And in other words, the environment is going to affect and beat up
Right.
the carrot and change the carrot. We say, okay, well, let's put something harder. So we'll put an egg in there. Well, on the outside, if you put a whole egg in boiling water, it's unchanged. It looks on the surface that it's just perfectly fine, but inside, the egg is now a hard boiled egg. Its head changes to itself inside. And over time, that definitely, or not over time, that definitely changes how you can use that egg. Put a coffee bean in there, and what happens?
It smells wonderful.
And it changes the boiling water to what? Coffee.
Black. Yeah, it does change
And
the cafe. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you take the bean out, and the bean is the same on the inside as it went in, and the same on the outside as it went in.
I love
So
that.
be the bean and affect the environment. You take control over the environment that you're dealing
Wow.
in. Don't let the environment take over you.
I don't know why you didn't want to do this, man. We're 25 minutes in and you just keep giving golden nugget after golden nugget
Yeah.
after golden nugget.
Well, I think, um I try to be very, very humble. I know it doesn't always come across, and I don't want to take away anybody else's thunder. And like said at the beginning, and it's true. I'm very humbled to be here, and you were quite persistent, Chris.
I don't really take no for an answer. I keep
Right.
I keep poking and but because I know enough about you in the limited time we've known each other that I knew you were going to have value to bring to this. Because
Yeah.
everybody that does this for a living has value. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. Because
Right.
this is the hardest, most stressful occupation in the world. And I've actually had a hostage negotiator from Maricopa County tell me that
Wow,
he would rather negotiate hostage situations than be a realtor.
wow,
True story.
that's intense.
So the fact that you came from this corporate world, which has a whole other level of stress, and then chose to come into one of the most stressful, I just brain part of what are we in? Professions. Awesome. Professions ever. So continue down your path of these things because this is very enlightening and I love
Did you
what
have
you're
another
doing.
one, Marco?
Yes.
Kobe, I like that
Again,
one too.
another analogy is and again, it's a phrase that being English, I don't know how
Right.
many, I imagine a lot of the people at Broker Sub Realty, a lot of the brokers there have gone to England and have
Mhm.
gone on the London Tube, and
Right.
at every station you'll hear an announcement, mind the gap. And what the gap is, the difference between the platform and the train. There's a gap there, and over the years, people have got their foot stuck down, children have fallen down there, and so it's mind the gap. And so what is that? Well, the platform is what we know,
Okay.
and the train is what we do. In other words, that train should be as close to that platform as possible, so we don't have to worry about it, right?
Right.
And so, okay, I'll use the obvious one. I want to lose weight. I know how to lose weight. Eat less, exercise more. End of discussion. But what do? We go, okay, look at this new diet. Wow,
Hmm.
this gym. We get into this
Yeah.
whole big discussion. Does
Yep.
slow motion resistance training, is that better than cardio? Or
Right.
we do all these things.
Mind the
So
gap. We're talking mind the
after
gap.
a year or two, most of us in this industry know, we have the knowledge. We know things like farming. We know open houses. We know the technology that we're using. We know, like what Marco does, get that niche and just
Mm.
exploit it. Where the difference is made between the winners and losers is how they bring their performance, what they do up to that knowledge. In other words, work on the gap, that
Mhm.
difference between what we know and what we do. And that
So
has always driven me, where I know I should be doing something, and for one reason or another, I don't. So work.
that would
Yeah.
be a good challenge for everybody at Brokers Hub. Find your gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about it right now. Where's my gap? Where's my gap? Because that's another brilliant little nugget there, Mark.
And this will blow your mind, Chris.
Okay.
So years ago, there was this company, and you would do videos and post them online called YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I was on there very early, and I did these little short 1-minute videos on these concepts.
Okay.
So, but it would be very hard
Yeah.
to find them now because I didn't do the big mistake. Again, a mistake. I did them under the company's name, not under my name, which
Well,
was a
at the
mistake.
time, you probably never thought you were leaving the company.
That is
I mean,
100% true.
I did a thing years ago when my son was 7, 8 years old called the Arizona House Detective because I was doing tons of HUD homes. I thought it was brilliant and it was received really well. I would take him to a HUD house and I would film him and he'd walk the house with the eyes of a 7-year-old. And the
Hmm.
stuff he would come up with, these are the weeds in the backyard. You got to get your parents to give you $5 to pull those weeds or they're just going to stay there. This is where you would head. This
Mm.
is where you would put the TV on the wall because it's a really big wall for a TV. That's mom and dad's room. We don't go in there. This could be your bedroom if you wanted
Right.
to because it has a nice window that goes out back. I mean, just the little insight that he had.
Yeah,
And I
great.
made him with a Slurpee and a candy bar. And we would just
Right.
go through every house. And even though I was on YouTube, I wasn't on YouTube the level I am now. And I
Yep.
made a different channel for it. And it's almost impossible to find it. I feel your pain.
Yeah. And going back to the gap, I feel like a lot of us know what that gap is.
I
And
don't think we
it's,
all do though, Marco.
I know, I agree, but I think some of us do. And for
Yeah.
whatever reason, we are reluctant to close that gap.
Yeah.
I
It's
Marco, it's
fear.
much easier to go to another seminar to learn about the
right.
newest AI
Mm.
thing. It just is. So
Well,
Yeah.
that's
don't
why,
worry about the gap. Go do that.
right. But that's why I said that because
Right.
there's a gap in all our businesses,
Yep.
especially
Mhm.
when the market's the way it is right now. If you're like me, because I'm constantly thinking, okay, what am I missing? What am I missing? Why isn't my phone ringing like it used to ring? And I keep having to remind myself, well, COVID changed all that. People don't make phone calls now. They Google the machine. They
Mhm.
they don't want to talk to anybody. They hide behind text and emails. So there's that gap. And
Mhm.
I'm that guy that's always trying to figure out how to get over that gap. That's my gap right now is how can I do what I used to do pre-COVID now with the barrier of nobody's answering the phones and you can text somebody till you're blue in the face. They don't respond if they don't want to respond. And then when you try to call them, it just goes straight to voicemail because they don't want to talk to you. Or you do call them and they cuss you out because they think you're spamming them or scamming them. When in all reality, you signed up for a list of homes
Right.
a month ago and I'm following up with you. But they signed up for a list of homes from 20 other realtors. So that's my gap, which is why I
Mm.
don't think everybody may know they have a gap, or if they do have a gap, they don't know how to find the gap and identify the gap because the gap can mean so many different things.
Right.
Not
Right.
just a clothing store. The gap.
Yeah.
Follow me?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I think we just have to, like you said, everybody has a gap. Everybody has a gap. We can poke holes in everybody's gap. And some of us don't know we have gaps. But I think once we find out what those gaps are, right, we just need to like attack it forward and not go to another seminar, right? Not find a new technology to solve that, right? Just head it straight on and just solve it, or at least make that effort to solve it, right?
You get
Mark,
Well, but see, there's the thing. So I'm going to piggyback off that
yeah,
statement there, Marco. In the world we live now, technology is almost going to be the necessity to fill that gap. So then it goes
yeah,
back to the question that Mark started the show with. Is it going to save me time? How much is it going to cost? And what am I going to benefit from it? So it's a
yeah,
question of finding the most accurate type of technology to fill the gap.
Yeah, but here's my point, though. You already know. 99% of the time, it's eat less, exercise more. So go do that. You know the technology, so why haven't you implemented it? You know what you need to do. Why haven't you done that? You know, and I'm not saying I've got all the answers, but just imagine the power that if we all just started closing those gaps and the increase in personal and reward and
Yeah.
business you get from that. It's because we know what we need to do 9 times out of 10.
right,
Right. But it's a question of now again with the anti phone call answering machine ring doorbell movement. How do you get over that gap? Because I tried last week, I mean, we're going down personal path here just because it may be helpful. last week I did bomb bomb. So I made my 5 phone calls on Friday and it didn't get answers. So I made a bomb bomb video saying, hey, Mark, it's Chris. Just touching base, left your message, want to see how things are going. And then whatever I said related to that person. Out of those 5 bomb bomb emails I sent, one watched it, no response. So it's okay. So somehow I still didn't connect with them, even
Yeah,
though
you
they're
did.
past clients.
You got a 20% impact.
Well, yeah, but she didn't respond. She just
They're not
watched
all
the
going
video.
to. They're
Yeah,
not all
that's true.
again.
That's true.
I'm not.
That's
I'm trying to. Here I am. I'm
no,
kicking
you're
into
good.
my broker
That's fine. That's why we
regional
do this.
developer role of trying to solve it. But it's a it's a long term
Commitment.
business
Oh
and
yeah, it's
long
a
term
marathon.
commitment. So the gap for you might be,
Mhm.
how do I stay motivated on bombing people
Mhm.
for the next 6 months before I see a result? And
Good
all
point.
those seeds that you planted, do they come back next year? One, by the way,
Yeah,
Megan and I love to say this, we'll be hungry then.
sure.
Guarantee we'll be hungry then too. We'll need to eat then.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
any others, Marco?
Yeah, so it's kind of in line with this. I think a lot of us, well, let me talk about the phrase. It says, work on your business while working in your business.
I like that too. That's a good one.
So, what's the difference between working on your business and what's the difference between working in your business?
Yeah, working in my business is sitting down and doing you guys have all seen me in the office, especially Chris, looking and sticking postcards to be mailed out and working in my database. That's working in my business.
Yeah.
That's going out on an appointment for a listing. It's taking a buyer around, showing them. That's working in your business. That's what we do. That's baking the bread. What was work for us, what works for me has always worked for me. Then periodically, and Megan and I do it very frequently, is to work on the business, and that is to stand back using, again, this is the engineer coming on me. We use statistics a lot, statistical process control a lot. In other words, looking at the Pareto principle of
What is the Pareto principle?
80-20 rule, as most
Okay.
people know it
Okay.
by.
Okay.
80% of your sales are going to come from 20% of your effort. We look at it, and then we look at our business and say, okay, what's working, what's not working? What do we need to adjust in our systems
Mm.
or what we do on a daily basis to improve the performance of our business? So
Hmm.
it's not baking the bread now. Now we're looking at, you know what, we need another oven because
Okay.
we can sell more bread than we have the capacity to produce, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in real estate, it's for us, especially when we're in the corporate housing, is every problem got charted. So we had a list of problems, and the top, after somebody moved in, complaints.
Mm.
What were the complaints on?
Right.
And the top four, which equated to about 20% of
Oh.
the
Oh.
potential issues, had 80% of the problems. We couldn't
Mhm.
fix number one. We couldn't come up with a way to fix number one. I forget what it was now, but we were sure able to fix number two, three, and four.
Mm.
And within a very short period of time, using that closed loop, going back,
Yeah.
fix it. What's the system that's got to be changed? We quickly got the reputation as being the highest quality provider of short-term corporate housing in Arizona. And
Wow.
that was part of it. This is a weird one. The little pop-ups and sinks,
Hmm?
Yeah.
in the sink. Do you
Yeah.
know how many of those break? It is
Yeah.
but what we were doing is we having people move in and they were already broken or not
Uh,
working. So all we had to do is just add that back to our
mm.
inspections. Well, the problem is if you got somebody moving in at 4 o'clock and
Right.
you're there at noon and find it's
Mm.
broken, I'm too old now to get underneath sinks and fix it.
Yeah.
You can't get it done. So we
Right.
moved it all the way up to when somebody moved out, we would do that, fix
Mm.
that problem, get the plumber in there or get the handyman in there and get it fixed. So
Nice.
that's the way you can use it in your business. Gee, I get constant complaints, you're stalking me. Then Chris, stop hanging out in the weeds to give me your business cards. That's what's meant by that. So we are
Cool.
frequently, we look at the and I think I put it in the one thing that everybody can use is we consistently get up every day and follow the system. And then we review the system frequently to make adjustments so that we keep improving on what we're doing.
You know what I like about what you're saying, Mark, that I think a lot of agents don't do is you're steering your business towards the data, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're stepping outside of the world of real estate, you're looking at the data and you're pivoting your business according to the data because the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Every year, here's what I do. Every year, I look at all my transactions. I look at where they come from. You know, I look at the average sales price. I actually create an avatar of my ideal client. That way, when I do open houses, I'm like, okay, this is my ideal client, right? For whatever reason, because of the data, what I've gathered, the data is telling me, hey, look, people of this demographic really gravitate towards you, Marco, right? And so I think that's super wise. What you're doing is looking at the data, and it goes back to the science of sales. You're looking at the data and you're pivoting your business according to those numbers, which I think a lot of us don't do. We just kind of I'm just going to go and just going to do open houses for $3 million properties because I want that big money. And the numbers say, hey, look, that's not where you're at.
Your niche. Yeah.
You bring up tooth. One is when you get this long in the tooth, every time somebody says something, I have an example of how that happened to
That's
me.
why you're
So,
here.
it just is just through the years. But I can tell you back when Carlos Pinto and I were first selling real estate together in Florida, in about the third year, we had a pretty good year for us. And we did this analysis and we found that we were spending 80% of our time trying to attract buyers. And that is, we would sit builders back homes, open houses, all that, going to events, all the things you did to attract buyers. And I've forgotten more than I remember now, and 20% of our time on listings. And we looked at it, and 80% of our income came from listings and 20% came from buyers. And so we looked at each other and said, well, we average about 10 listings at a time now. I wonder, and this was early January, like January 3rd, 4th. I wonder if we doubled our listings, if we would do 80% more business. And I was like, you know what? I'm good in math, but I don't know. It seems logical. So he said, let's do it. Guys, I kid you not. February 1st, we had 22 listings in our inventory. Ask me how we did it. We just did everything. We approached builders. You got spec homes coming. Well, let's list them now. We did everything. Extra mailings to the neighborhood that we were farming. We just went nuts. 22 listings. Well, we didn't make 80% more money that next year. We made 4 times the money we
Nice.
made the prior year because there's the turnover that
Yeah.
you've just multiplied. You've got double the inventory to turn over. It was unbelievable.
Right
We
on.
went from a couple of good realtors to the number 3 in our MLS
Right.
producing.
Good
Yeah,
job.
and that's a great example of following the data, right?
Right,
Um,
and you can do it all the time, everywhere, and by the way, some of this I know sounds very nerdy, and other than Bruce, Nick's husband, some of you might say, "Yeah, that's all over my head, I can't do." I'm more than happy to help you break it
It's
down.
it's not nerdy. It's insightful. That's why you're sitting here,
Thank you.
which is why I like it. So one of your things that you mentioned in your successful strategies that we haven't talked about yet is the Glenn Ross reference, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. ABC.
I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
Have you ever watched the movie?
Which one?
Glenn
Glenn
Ross.
Ross. Marco and
Phrase "coffees for closers."
That's what I was just gonna say,
there you go.
Jason, so,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Good job, Jason.
Coffees for closers, and you'll see it, Marco,
Yeah.
and you'll just
Yeah.
you'll laugh. It's
Dang.
funny, but always be closing. So after studying again the science and the art, there is an art, like you
Yeah.
said. Who do I relate to? How do I get the warm and fuzzies with people, and that art of selling, it's there, and I
Yeah.
won't take that away from anybody. The emotional, but by the way, that's also part of the selling, is look for the emotional connection that people have, and then mirror it back to them. Well, one of the things I also
Mhm.
learned in that is I go into, especially a sales situation, say a listing. I assume that I am getting the listing. I
I do
go
too.
on that, well, why wouldn't they list with me? I'm really good at what I do. I know what I'm doing. I can do the best for these people. Let me find out what they want done, and then I'll tell them if I can do it or not.
Yeah.
Um, so what so after, again, about 2, 3 years of selling, my broker had at the time, had a really good friend, and, the guy was around the office a lot, just hanging out, just a nice guy, and
Yeah.
he pulled me as he said one time, not aside, but in front of me, he says, "You know, Mark, I don't know if you know this, but you start closing a deal from, 'Hi, I'm Mark Vost.'" And I was like, "I didn't realize that." And it's because I just expect they're gonna say yes. "Okay, I wanna see 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes, but I need a 3-car garage." "Okay, great. Let's go look at those now. I'll go
Mm.
find them in the else, come back, okay, let's go." Say, uh, if I don't ask permission at any step of the way. If they don't want me to do it, they're gonna say, "Whoa, whoa, 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 this is going
Yeah.
too fast," and then I overcome that objection. I just assume this is what they told me. Why would they
Yeah.
lie to me?
That's one of the key points in our industry, which I think a lot of people miss, is the listening part. If you listen to if you just let them talk the first time you connect with them,
Yep.
they're going to tell you everything you ever want to know about their lives, about their relationships, about why they're looking for a house, where they've been, what
Some
has.
things you don't wanna know.
Right. No, but again, that goes back to building a connection before commission. So the
Yep.
more you listen, and then like you said, they want a 3-bed, 2-bath, but you really need a 3-car garage. So when you send them exactly what they told you they wanted, that adds credibility. A lot of realtors don't do that. They will listen to what's being said, and then they'll set up their own little search and send you the results. Or they'll go in and have a conversation with you about what you're searching for, knowing full well you're not going to find that because the market has passed you by. You just still set up the search and you still send them the results and you let them formulate the response, understanding that, well, where's this and that? Well, I'm sorry, where were you 5 years ago? You can't buy that house now for that amount of money, but you're still listening to them and trying to put forth what they were asking to see, which again leads to giving credibility, which again leads to the connection, which leads
Yep.
to the fact that you can close somebody from the word, "Hi, I'm Mark."
And it's not
You
being pushy either, right, Mark?
No.
no,
That's the
because
thing is it's like the art of selling, right?
Mhm.
You're not being pushy. You're just delivering what they're asking.
yeah, so, you'll hear a lot of salespeople say something like, and then we'll go out and look at those homes, and I've got a piece of paper. And you'll fill it out and turn it into me or whatever and give me that feedback. Is that fair? I won't ask them if that's fair because I already know it's fair.
Yeah.
I already know it's right. And so part of getting the science of the selling is I assume that I go forward. I am trying to get little yeses, whether they have to say them out loud. I don't ask the direction. I try and avoid yes, no questions. And then I also try to, or don't try to, my goal, let's say I'm taking a buyer out and I'm showing them houses. My goal is not to sell them a house that day. Be nice if it works. My
Yeah.
goal is to make sure that we have a reason to get together again, whether it's to call
Interesting.
an appointment, and
Mhm.
every interaction I have, my goal is to get a second I don't know, Chris, if you can really have a horse on this property. I know it looks like it's set up for one. Let me research that and get back to you. And they go,
I
"You
like
go
that.
what?" "I like that. Yeah, great. I look forward to hearing that because it's a pretty good property." "Yeah, but I'd hate for you to buy a property." And now the next one I know for sure can do, but I've already got a reason I'm going to
Right.
follow up with you. And
Mm.
then that's the process I take people through. And the other one I see so many, as a regional developer, I got exposed to thousands of agents in all over the country. And
Right.
my troubleshooting I did for Realty Executives International, the brokerages, I mean, thousands and thousands of agents. They don't ask for the order. They just, I know for Chris, I see the shock in your face. What? In other words, when they say, "Oh, this house is really nice. Would you like let's write this one up, okay?
Mhm.
Because this is,
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
you've told me, this is the one. Let's go do
Mhm.
that now. I've asked for the order." They can say, "No, I'm not
Mhm.
ready," or so. And part of that too, for some newer people too, we have used and we currently use our loan partners as part of the sales process.
Sure.
Have you already been pre-qualified? This is a great one for us at open houses. Have you already been pre-qualified? Do you know what you can actually? Well, no. Well, do you know a mortgage person? No. Well, we've got a couple that we know that we work with, and let's get them together. And we use that to then get that to help move them through the process. And when you're done with that, we'll follow up with you to set up appointments. And that's how we step through.
It's almost
Yeah.
like you're letting them close themselves.
Yeah.
That's part of letting them talk. If you just let them
Right.
talk, they're there to buy a house. They called you
Right.
to buy a house. They clicked online to buy, and that goes back to my gap. Like, I know you want to buy a house, but I got to get you on the phone in order to make that transition from wanting to actually happening. Everybody that we talk to in our world, in our field, they want to buy or sell a home. So that goes
Right.
back to like what Mark said. You listen. The more you listen, the more they're going to tell you. The more they're just going to throw up their entire life on your lap. And during that, if you're listening actively, you're going to understand the motivation behind it. You're going to understand their time frame. You're going to understand what they need to do and why they need to do it. And then, like you said, Marco, they're closing themselves because all you're doing is reinforcing that. Active listening is just reinforcing. Okay, so Mark, you really want a horse. So I'll find out if that product can do a horse or not. I do know there's other ones that will allow horses. So again, let me get back to you in 15, 20 minutes or so once I make that conversation. I like how you spin that, Marco or Mark, that you want to have a reason to get back to them. So you're just not ending the conversation that day. You leave them with a dangling carrot or a little nugget that, hey, I'm going to follow up because of this or that. That's nice. I'm going to implement that because I think that's a really neat strategy as well.
And so
Nice
I think,
job.
like Mark, so when do you? I'm kind of still hooked on the order. What was the phrase that you said? Ask for the order. When you
Yeah.
say, so when do you get to the point where you say, should I write up the contract? Because when you say that,
Not should I, not should I. He didn't say should I. Let's write up the contract because they're
okay,
telling him this house is perfect. He checks the boxes. So then he steps in. Great. Let's write the offer up. Let's write up the contract.
Necessarily, yeah, because they don't, Chris. Oh, excuse me, guys.
You're good.
They don't know necessarily what the next step is. If they did, they wouldn't need us. They don't
Right.
know. So I just lead them by the hand and follow me. It's okay.
Goes
Not
back to
fair.
the mindset of treating everybody like they're 5 years old in a non-degrading way.
Exactly.
Because you have to be able to talk to them at their level. Like I've sold houses with sellers that have never sold a house before. They bought that house 22 years ago. So it's foreign to them. The selling process is foreign to them. I've sold houses to somebody that's maybe sold 4 or 5 houses, but no other agent, mind blowing, never educated them on all the little nuances and how the realtors get paid and what happens at escrow and where's the appraisal and what happens with the appraisal if it doesn't appraise. It's mind boggling. So I've learned in my years doing it when I go to a listing appointment, have you ever sold a house before? It's one of my first questions. When I meet a buyer, have you ever bought a house before? Well, yeah, but not in Arizona. Okay, well, it's no different in Arizona than it is in Chicago, except there's no realtor or there's no lawyers involved. So I've learned to use that as one of my initial questions. Have you ever done this or that? Because their answer is going to surprise you. And I had one earlier this year, like I said, she bought and sold 3, 4 houses. No realtor ever explained to her the process of how realtors got paid, of what happens when the appraisal gets done.
Wow.
If it does, it's mind boggling. And I had to keep going around and around with her to make her understand. And then I finally realized, oh yeah, she told me, even though she sold 3, 4 houses, I took the assumption she knew everything. But that was my assuming the previous agents, all 4, 5, 6 of them actually did their job and none of them did
they're not as
from an
good as you,
education
Chris.
standpoint. Well, it's not a matter of being good. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of educating. Like
Yeah.
it blew my mind. Like
Right.
how I don't remember how many transactions. Let's call it 5, but she did 5 transactions with 5 different realtors, which were 5 of the most financially daunting tasks in her lifetime. 2 of which were cross country, and they never explained the ins and outs of the process. So that goes back to listening. I listened to her, but I assumed because she told me she had experience that she knew. And then once we got our first offer, she had no clue what I was talking about. I had to explain it 5 different ways, an hour face to face at her kitchen table for her light bulb to finally go off.
Well, Mark, we're running out of time here. What
We
are
are.
some last?
I like
But yeah, well, a couple things that I would say last things for me that I'd be good for people, I think, to take away from this is whatever it is you choose that you're going to do and how you're going to run your business, Marco, you're a perfect example of this with the work you do with the schools, and that whatever it is, just be consistently persistent with that and persistently consistent,
Mm.
consistently persistent, and
Mhm.
just keep doing that same thing if it's generating the results, but you
Yep.
got to do it consistently.
But by the year and a half in that neighborhood, I got so busy, I just stopped going consistently. And
Yep.
had I continued that neighborhood 27 years,
Yep.
I'd own that spot.
That's
So yeah,
exactly right.
that's
Well,
another golden nugget, Marco
we
or
had
Mark.
when we get a listing, we'd had 20 things and we'd do 18 of them. The house wouldn't sell. Do the last two and the house would sell, but not because of those, because of something else. So
Right.
I learned from that, just persistently be consistent and
Mm,
consistently persistent at it.
right.
And then I think the other one, which is a big one, is activity breeds activity, especially when you're down,
Mm.
you're funk. It's
Mhm.
a tough
Mm.
market. Get out there and do something
Yeah.
because you don't know. And I have two perfect examples of this. One is back in Florida. We used to have lots of vacant lots. I would personally go out and hammer signs, for sale signs, to the trees. Neighbor comes
Interesting.
over. Well, how much they want for that lot? Whatever it was. Oh, I think I'd like to buy it so nobody builds next to me. Great. Want to do
Mm.
that right now? Let's get this going. Right?
Now,
Had I
obviously you
stayed at
had permission,
home or
but obviously you had permission of the owner to do that, though. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
well, I know,
listen
but
up.
you hung it up on a tree, man. You brought you. I just wanted to make people understand you were
Oh,
just
okay.
randomly going out,
I should
dude.
I should let you know on an average lot at that time, there were probably 1,000 trees. I mean, these were
Oh, okay,
forested lots. Okay,
okay,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, wasn't
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
all
go
good.
out to their palm tree
I
in their front. It's a
saw a
vacant lot.
vacant
It's
lot
a
in a
totally vacant
neighborhood.
lot.
Marcy,
But
dude.
here's one, every open house I put up between 12 and 14 signs every time. That's what I do. It's what Megan brings me along for. It's not my good looks, unfortunately. It's to go put these signs up. Well, guess what? Guy comes over, starts talking to me. He's got a couple places. His wife's sick. It's da, da, da. That will eventually, I believe, turn into a couple of listings.
Yeah.
Yep.
But had I stayed at home on my couch on that Sunday,
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
activity,
Yeah.
whatever it is you guys choose to do, just do it. Go out there, do it, and it'll breed
Love it.
activity that will help you.
Love it. Well, thank you, Mark, for being on the show today.
Again,
Amazing.
it's my
I
pleasure.
want
And
I want to drop his last final note. The goal is to elevate everyone's standard through collaboration and shared wisdom.
Love that. Yes.
He's Mark Vost. He's Marco Bravo. I'm Chris Thumb. This is Elevating Your Voice. See you next time. Thank you.
hi guys, thanks for watching.
Amazing.